Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit more technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, because in today's video, I want to discuss a chart pattern that has been spreading around the cryptocurrency community like wildfire called the bump and run reversal pattern. At this point, you've probably seen this tweet by a fellow on Twitter named b.biddles, and he in this tweet details how Bitcoin seems to be entering what is known as a bump and run reversal bottoming pattern. And if Bitcoin does indeed go ahead and execute this kind of pattern, Bitcoin would likely be running close to $7,000 and would more than likely be starting a bull market within the next 2 to 3 weeks, guys. This is actually a relatively likely thing to happen, and in today's video, I want to lay out exactly what we're talking about here, exactly what a bump and run reversal pattern is, and why exactly it's so bullish for Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin, like I said, does go ahead and execute on this pattern, this could be the catalyst that we need to start a bull market. And I'm not saying that with one exaggerative bone in my body, guys. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into it, guys. Bitcoin at the time of recording this video is $5,250, but I want to go ahead and jump right on into this tweet by one b.biddles here on Twitter. A couple days ago on the 14th of April, he posted this tweet saying, BTC, literally a textbook BARR bottom. Hint, this means the bears are effed. And he posts this picture from this textbook talking about a bump and run reversal pattern. And as you can see, this pattern, as we'll go over to the actual, the patternsite.com, where they have kind of an encyclopedia of different chart patterns, and they do talk about this one as well. We see that something called a BARR bottom, also abbreviated or lengthened, maybe I should say, as a bump and run reversal bottom, does basically form in three phases. You have the lead-in phase, you have the bump phase, and the run phase. I'll go ahead and show you exactly what that means. For this BARR bottom, we're going to see that we need to have a downtrend of resistance, something like that. In this reversal pattern, we see that we have a phase right here called the lead-in phase. From there, we have a phase over here after we've broken support and moved to the downside. It doesn't necessarily have to be support, but a lot of times it will be. The market will move to the downside, and in this phase over here, this is called the bump phase. That's called the lead-in phase. This is called the bump phase. After Bitcoin or whatever market you're looking at actually goes ahead and breaks above this downtrending resistance level, then you enter what is known as the run phase, also in our case known as a Bitcoin bull market. So guys, those are the three phases that we're looking at. I'm going to go ahead and take away a couple of these levels. We'll bring them back later because we'll need them. But for right now, these are the main levels of resistance that we want to be looking at. Bitcoin is below this downtrend of resistance and just so happens to be getting rejected here at the moment. Now, not rejected, excuse me, Bitcoin is testing this level. And as I've talked about for the last week or so, Bitcoin finds itself in a critical moment here. If Bitcoin breaks to the downside, we're probably going to see some kind of correction. But if Bitcoin can break some of that resistance that I just took off the chart around $5,400 and start moving to the upside, then Bitcoin is likely going to be in for another major rally. And this goes ahead and confirms exactly what I was talking about, in that if Bitcoin does break this downtrend of resistance right around where we are right now, as you can see, we're basically testing it as we speak. If Bitcoin does break that, we should be moving into a very bullish type of market. So let's go ahead and analyze exactly what this market looks like and why it resembles a bump and run reversal bottom so clearly. So the first thing you want to look for is that you're trading on the arithmetic scale. Of course, we don't want to be on the log scale. That would throw off a lot of the targets. That would throw off a lot of the shapes of the markets and the trend lines and everything like that. But as we can see here, these are the characteristics of the BARR. I want to go ahead and run through them. Shape, it should look like a frying pan tilted down with a handle to the left. I think that's definitely what we're looking at right here, almost like a reversed cup. I've seen a lot of people describe what we've seen here as a cup pattern, where Bitcoin has the little cup and handle right there, and then Bitcoin will break out. That's also possible, but what we're looking at here is kind of an inverse cup with the handle on the left side instead of the right side, and it's not really a cup, it's just going to be sideways trading with a bit of a downtrending slope. That's pretty much what we're looking at there. Definitely checks out 100%. Lead-in phase, we've already seen the lead-in phase. That would be this phase right over here. It is complete. Farther than that, the lead-in height, we'll go ahead and talk about that. We need to keep in mind what this height is right here. This height needs to be about twice as high at least, or excuse me, this height over here needs to be about twice as high as the lead-in height. The height between the downtrending level of resistance and the bottom of the bump phase needs to be about twice as tall as this height over here. So we do see that that checks out. And guys, I'm not going to run through every single one of these. You can go on this website. I will leave it in the description if I remember. If not, there's the URL right there. Pretty easy to find. I'm not going to run through all of these, but I did want to run through some of them. In short, Bitcoin does match just about every single characteristic of a bump and run reversal bottom. And sometimes what you'll find is that Patterns don't need to follow the textbook word for word and need to look exactly like what the textbook says, because sometimes they're going to follow that pattern anyway. So I think we can pretty safely say that Bitcoin is in the lead up to a bump and run reversal bottom at the moment, and based on all the technicals, based on all the fundamentals, based on the literal textbook here, and based on everything that we can see on the market. So let's go ahead and talk about what this means for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is indeed in a bump and run reversal bottom, what does that mean for Bitcoin, and where does that leave Bitcoin now and in the near-term future after a potential bullish breakout? Well, if Bitcoin does break this downtrend of resistance, that's where things get interesting. Because as I've been saying for the last week or so, before this even became a big news deal, as I've been saying, Bitcoin is in a crucial moment right here. If it breaks bullish, it's going to be very good for Bitcoin, and a bull market may start. If Bitcoin breaks bearish, it's not going to be bad. A bull market's still probably coming. It's just going to be a correction for us to buy new Bitcoin. And this goes ahead and lends credence to what I've said here. Because if Bitcoin breaks this downtrend of resistance, then it has gone ahead and completed the bump and run reversal bottom and has actually broken bullish. And let me go ahead and show you what happens if Bitcoin breaks bullish here and does follow this textbook bump and run reversal bottom. Well, if you look over here, then what we'll see is that the target for this type of breakout would actually be, you can come here and read all of this on your own, I promise is here. If you go ahead and look at that, what you'll find is that where you should see the breakout run to would be the previous high of the level where the market actually started. So if you see a breakout here above this downtrend, then you should see Bitcoin rally through the downtrend all the way up here to this level of resistance, and it should happen relatively quickly, guys. That's actually called the run phase, like I said, and that should happen relatively quickly if we do see the bullish breakout. So according to this technical analysis, if Bitcoin does break this downtrending level of resistance, if it does do it, I'm trying to get that, but I'm not going to get it. There we go. Nope. If Bitcoin does break this downtrending level of resistance, it should, in theory, based on the bump and run reversal bottom, rally all the way up here to this level right here of $6,800. Now, will that happen? We're going to talk about that in a little while, but that is what the chart predicts. That is what this textbook predicts, and it does actually tend to be a relatively accurate pattern. You can read the statistics right here about how accurate this is, and typically you do see a very large rally after you see the actual breakout itself. Now, with that all said, as B.Diddles does point out, there is a scenario sometimes where you'll see the lead-in phase and the bump phase. You'll see the breakout, but during the throwback, and what the throwback is if Bitcoin breaks bullish here and it comes down and tests this level of support again, which was previously resistance, and then bounces, this right here would be the throwback. Sometimes what you'll see happen with this type of pattern is that during the throwback, you'll fall back below that downtrend of support and we'll start moving to the downside. Guys, I don't think that's what's most likely for Bitcoin right here. If Bitcoin does start breaking bullish above all this resistance in between $5,300 and $5,400, we're probably going straight to $6,000. But I do have a major problem with this this pattern that I haven't seen a whole lot of people talk about, and I think we need to talk about it because it's the job of the YouTube community to be careful about how much FOMO and how much FUD we spread. And of course, we've all been guilty of this. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone who's discussed this, of course. I'm not bashing anyone. I think there's been some excellent coverage of the BARR pattern on YouTube. I've seen, I think, basically every single video covering this to date. There's been many great YouTubers talk about it. But I think we need to be careful that we don't go ahead and overhype this too much, because while this pattern does most likely indicate that a bull market could be coming if Bitcoin breaks bullish, I want to point out one very important thing. And that is, well, actually two very important things. And that is that our market back in 2015 did not start a new bull market in this way. We saw a rally, and then we saw a downtrend, and then we saw a bull market. We saw the 50 and the 200 moving averages cross bullish in a golden cross, death cross, then a golden cross. We saw one starter rally, and then we saw a second rally. Then we saw the bull market during that second rally. Now, guys, I want to be clear that sometimes the market isn't going to follow what happened in 2015 exactly verbatim. Just because it happened in 2015 doesn't mean it needs to happen now. We could see Bitcoin break bullish out here and start a bull run without seeing that rally, downtrend, then rally for bull market type of pattern that we saw in 2015. That's very possible, but also at the same time, 2015's bear market and accumulation phase has been a resounding success in predicting how Bitcoin will move here in 2019, so we don't want to go ahead and write it off entirely. The second problem I have is that whenever people talk about this BARR pattern, they seem to be neglecting the fact that the target for this BARR pattern, the bar pattern, puts Bitcoin above $6,000. And guys, I don't think personally that if Bitcoin breaks bullish out here, that we're necessarily just going to blast straight through $6,000, which in 2018 and still on into 2019 is perhaps one of the most important support and resistance levels Bitcoin has seen in many years. Probably in the last 5 years, that is the most significant level that Bitcoin has seen, maybe since about $1,300 on Bitcoin, which we saw as a previous all-time high. That right here would probably be the only thing comparable, and maybe also $20,000 on Bitcoin. But $6,000, because of how long it's been in play, how important this has been, $6,000 is going to be one of the biggest challenges that Bitcoin is going to face before it starts a bull market. So if Bitcoin does go ahead and complete this pattern, which I think there's a pretty good chance that it will, don't get me wrong, it's going to come up here and it's going to face resistance at $6,800. And for it to follow through all the way on this target, it's going to have to break $6,000. If Bitcoin can break $6,000, yeah, we're probably in a bull market. Don't get me wrong. We're probably going to be entering into a bull market. The fundamentals are all there. The technicals can be all there if we start moving up like that. I don't want to discount that. But I also want to keep in mind that Bitcoin has some ridiculously strong resistance above it at 6K. And this is why a lot of times I have problems with targets on consolidation patterns like this. Let's say you have a pennant like this, and you go ahead and you draw the target, and the target puts Bitcoin somewhere up here. Well, that doesn't necessarily include that there may be a gigantic level of resistance right here for Bitcoin to top out at, and then Bitcoin's actually only going to go up to right there because the resistance right there. So a lot of times these targets that textbooks have and that analysts use to figure out where exactly a market is going to go is based on a perfect world scenario where there's no major resistance levels above that breakout. So I want to keep in mind that even though the breakout target for this is $6,800, I think we'll probably, if we do break bullish here, go up to $6,000, and then we'll have to do some more analysis at the time to see if Bitcoin's going to break above that. Because if Bitcoin breaks above 6K, a bull market is starting. I'm not totally convinced we're just there yet. I think it's coming. I think it's coming soon. And also, by the way, guys, I want to be clear. I've leveled a couple of criticisms at this bar pattern, but don't get me wrong. I think it's a very powerful pattern. I'm very glad we found it, and I do think that it is valid, and I do think that there's a pretty good chance that we're going to use it to break bullish. So just because I've leveled a couple criticisms at it and its target does not mean I think it's invalid. I think it is valid, and I think we are probably going to see some bullishness come from it. With all that said, I want to hear your opinions in the comment section down below, guys. What do you think of this BARR pattern, this bump and run reversal pattern? Do you think Bitcoin is about to break very bullish and start moving to the upside? Because of course, those couple of trend lines that I got rid of earlier on in the video are still in play. We have that level of resistance right there, and we have our level of support right over here. All the way up there. This is an ascending triangle pattern, even if we get rid of our bump and run downtrend. This is an ascending triangle pattern, which is likely to break bullish anyway. And if it does, it's going to break that BARR level of resistance, and we're going to start moving to the upside, guys. I'll tell you what, as the days continue to go on, I become more and more bullish on Bitcoin. A couple days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, I was a little bit more bearish on Bitcoin, but the fact that Bitcoin has bounced here and is moving back up towards levels of resistance is rather encouraging. And also the fact that Bitcoin broke bearish here out of this ascending triangle pattern back over here, and we only saw this downtrend, and we couldn't make anything more bearish out of it, that is also encouraging. So at the time, it seemed bad because Bitcoin looked like it was going to the downside, but because Bitcoin didn't continue that downtrend, it's actually not a bad thing for Bitcoin. It's actually a bullish thing for Bitcoin, because if the bears were so in control, why is Bitcoin moving to the upside once again? Guys, I want to hear all of your opinions in the comment section down below on that. What do you think of this bump and run reversal pattern? How many times have you heard this phrase in the last couple of days ever since Beeb.Biddles posted this on Twitter? Because this has been everywhere in the cryptocurrency community. Everyone has contributed to this. Everyone's talked about it, and I figured I'd throw my hat in for the mix because I have a lot of I wanted to talk specifically about that price target on the BARR and kind of make sure that you guys understand that just because we see one pattern come out of the blue that isn't really talked about a whole lot, that doesn't necessarily mean a bull market starting. There's still other technical analysis that we need to take into consideration. But either way, guys, no matter what happens with this BARR pattern, even if it weren't here, I was still getting slightly more bullish on Bitcoin by the day, and I do still think Bitcoin is looking like it's in a very healthy state for the shorter term and for the longer term. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching. Before we wrap the video up, I do want to mention that a sale will be starting on CT2A tomorrow, and the reason for that is because 5 new videos are going to be launching in the course. Several of them are already recorded, and they will all be ready by Friday of next week. They should start going up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 5 videos for 5 days. and you guys will start getting more videos in the course. If you're already in the course, watch out for those. You will be getting those for no extra cost. If you were looking to buy CT2A, feel free to do it before the sale starts, but there's going to be a sale starting in less than 24 hours, so go ahead and hold off if you want to do that. Anyway, guys, that is actually going to do it for today's video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.